So, welcome, folks. I want to talk today about authority marketing, which is about your positioning and how you position yourself as an authority. And that means that you'll then be able to attract business to you. Now, a few weeks ago, I did run a webinar about authority, which is a more big picture webinar. So, I'm not going to go through any of that again. If you do want to watch the recording of that webinar, if you missed it or you just like to go through it again, then if you go to seeingintothefuture.com and have a look through the past webinars there, you'll see the webinar that I ran about authority, which is the big picture side of it. But today, I want to give you a really practical way to create some authority building tools and leverage that in your business. So let me tell you why this is important. So I want to go through quickly a model because this is all about trust. So it's a trust that you have with your customers and clients when you're launching a product or service or when you're offering a product or service to them. So what I'd like you to do is think about a product or a service and a market that you're offering that product or service to. It may be a new offering, it may be an existing offering, it may be coming back to an existing market with a new product or service, or it may be taking an existing product to a new market, or any one of those combinations. And think about the level of the relationship that you have with them. So I reckon it goes at 6 levels. So let me go through those briefly. So the bottom level is where you're just a business owner, you're a proprietor, you don't really have any relationship with your client or customer or with that market. And that's certainly the case when you first start your business, but it might also be the case when you're launching a new product or service to an existing market. If they don't know that you offer that, then pretty much you're an unknown proprietor. The next level up, which is a little bit better, is that you're a promoter. So then you start promoting that product so that they know a little bit about it. So this is where marketing and sales comes in. And I'm not saying that everyone is pushy, but you are seen as just like any other marketer, any other salesperson, if that's the first relationship that they have with you. The next level up is when you actually get the business. So then you become a supplier, and then you become a liked or a preferred supplier. And that's good because now you have some sort of trust with them, some level of trust, and they are going to probably come back to you over and over again, unless there's a reason for them not to do that. Now, there may be that reason. So if they find somebody better, or if their circumstances change, then you may lose that relationship. So those are the first 3 levels. The next one is where you become a recognized expert. So this is where you're known for your expertise, and it gives you a stronger positioning than just being a supplier. So it's not just based on transaction or length of relationship, it's really based on your expertise. The next level up, which is the one that we're going to talk about mostly today, is where you actually become a trusted authority. So up until about 5 years ago, I would say, look, just publish as much as you can to demonstrate your expertise. But now everyone's doing that. You need to be better than an expert, where you just recognize for your expertise, but you also need to be a trusted authority. And then the best level of all, number 6, is where you're an equal partner. So now you're no longer a supplier or you're external. You now work with your customers and clients as a partner. So whether there's a formal joint venture partnership or not, you actually do have that relationship with them. So you kind of go into projects together. You may still be selling stuff to them, and they may still be buying stuff from you, but you see yourselves as providing mutual service so that you can work together. So those are the 6 levels, and if you think about those 6, the bottom 3 are you pushing. So you push your product and service to your market, and the top 3 are where you attract business to you almost automatically. Now you still need to do the work to push the material out there, but you attract the business to you rather than you having to go out and push for it. And the top 3 have much greater leverage than the bottom 3. So if you look at the leverage of each one and you give it a number, and this is not scientific in any way, but you can think of it as saying, okay, when you're an unknown proprietor, it's like you almost don't exist, and you certainly don't in terms of your customers and clients. When you're promoted, then you're selling, and it's only slightly negative, but you're still a little bit negative because you're just like everybody else. When you become a preferred supplier, that's kind of when you're at an even keel. So let's say there's a multiplier of 1, and then you start getting better. So you become a recognized expert, might be worth twice that. Trusted authority might be worth 10 times that. And when you're an equal partner, there's really infinite leverage that you've got because you're working together with your customers and clients as a supplier, as a partner with them in their business. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. What I would like to know is what's your positioning? So, as I said, think about a product or service that you are now thinking of launching or you have launched to a market. And for that specific product or service, what's your positioning? Which of these 6 levels are you at? So, I've got a poll for you here, and I'm going to launch the poll. And I'd just like you to think again. So, this is completely anonymous. And again, when you think about answering this question, please answer it. Let me launch it for you here. Please answer it with respect to a particular product or service and a particular market. So if it's brand new and you haven't even started promoting it, you'd answer it as unknown proprietor. If you are well known in that market and you've got this really strong relationship and they really know that you're fantastic at offering this product or service, then you'll be a trusted authority. And and there may be somewhere in between. I've left out equal partner because I think if you're equal partner, then you don't need any of this. You can go ahead without any of the things that I'm talking about in today's webinar. Okay, so I'll give you time, a little bit more time to complete the poll. Most people are, more than half the people have answered. Okay, about 3/4 now. Okay, great. Great. Thank you, everyone. So let me show you the results. Okay, good. Okay, so close and share the results. Okay, so it's mixed. It's a spread among them, which is good. So some people are already at that trusted authority level, and there are actually almost half the people at this unknown level. So that's really good. And I reckon if you are tough on yourself when you're scoring, then it's probably going to be better for you because you're probably going to work harder to lift yourself up that scale. Okay, so great. So what I'd like you to do is by the end of this webinar, have some tools that will help you move further up, and ideally up to trusted authority. And it may not happen immediately, but I'd like to think that you'll get there by using some of the things that we talk about in this webinar. Okay, so what are the sort of things that will help you build trusted authority? Because that's what we're aiming for today. So I want to aim to give you some ideas and some really practical ideas for you to get up to here. Now, if you're already here, fantastic. And the sort of things that I'm going to talk about will help you reinforce that. If you're not here yet, then the things that I'll talk about will help you get there. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go through all these stages. So the 44% of the people here who are on the webinar who if you identify yourself at the moment as being down here as an unknown proprietor, it doesn't mean that you have to go through all these steps to become a trusted authority. You have to work hard, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go through all the stages. So let's look at some of the authority building tools. And I'm going to pick one of them. I'm going to pick, let me show you what the 4 that I'm going to share with you first, and then we'll work through one of them with some practical examples. Okay, so what sort of things position you as an authority? Well, a lot of people will give free speeches or free presentations because they know that being an expert at the front of the room helps them get business. A lot of people will recognize the value of a published printed book that they can give out as a gift. So they're not trying to make money from their book, but they recognize the value of having a printed book, a published book, as building authority. You can get authority by being known in the media, and that's another tool for authority. And you can get authority by being a celebrity. And celebrity here covers a whole bunch of things. So, for example, you might be a social media authority because you've got a lot of followers and a lot of engagement with your followers. So I'm kind of lumping that in with the whole idea of like Hollywood celebrity as well. Not that there's anything wrong with building celebrity that way, but it's just it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a mass media celebrity. You can be an online celebrity as well. So today specifically, I'm going to pick one example here, and I'm going to pick the example of a book. So using a book to build authority. There's a couple of reasons for that. So one is that I'm running a book writing workshop coming up pretty soon. So if you want help with writing a book, then I can help you with that, and I'll tell you about that at the end of the webinar. But also because I know that a number of the people who are on this particular webinar, I know the people who've registered, like a speech is another way of doing it, but many of us want to actually get paid to speak. So we're not using free speaking as a way to get other business. We're actually using other other means of authority to get paid speeches. So you can definitely use free presentations, but that's a topic for another day. And I'm also not going to talk about getting TV, radio, that mass media, or social media. So I've done a number of webinars in the past about social media, and it absolutely works. It just takes time. I reckon one of the two here, the speech and the book, are the quickest ways to get cut through as an authority. And as I said, the reason I'm not choosing speech is because many of us want to get paid speaking. So let's look at book instead. And the key with a book is that you publish it and you leverage it. So your published book gives you instant authority. So you could give it to a prospect, you could send it to them after a meeting, you could give it out to people selectively at a networking event, you could use it as a gift that you send to your key referral partners and they give out to their clients, so that gets you business as well. So there are a number of ways that you could use a book just by itself, but you can also leverage the book once you've written it and once you've published it in a number of different formats. And today I want to talk about the leverage side of it, because it's kind of exciting when you have a book that you can give it out, but you may not have thought about other ways to leverage it. So in fact, I've got here 9 different ways that you can leverage your book. So 3 of them so what I'm talking about is take the content from your book and use it in these 9 different ways. You can use it in these 3 text ways, these 3 audio ways, and these 3 video ways. So I said at the start of the webinar that I'm going to ask you to control the agenda here. So what I'd like you to do in the question box is type in any of these that you're interested in me talking about in detail. So if you want to know about leveraging a book for articles, an audio CD, and a slideshow, can you please write in the question box articles, CD, and slideshow? And the ones that are the most popular, I'm going to go through them in that order. And then if you get time, we'll go through all 9 of them, but I want to do it in the order, the priority order that's most valuable for you. So you can ask for more than one, ask for as many as you like, actually, and I'll be very happy to answer as many as I can. So somebody has said video, but that's all 3. So I'd like to know specifically which one of the video things are you interested in. Okay, and I'll read out what's coming up. So articles, podcast, slideshow, online course, audiobook tutorials, online course, video tutorials, yep, webinar, slideshow, podcast, online course, audiobook tutorials. Okay, so tutorials is coming up quite a bit. So that's definitely one, I think, unless that gets overtaken. Online course is coming up quite a bit, and slideshow is coming up quite a bit. Okay, there's a couple of people asking for podcast. Slideshow is definitely coming up. So we've got slideshow at the moment, leading the race. A slideshow, tutorial, online course, and webinar. Okay, and then tutorials. Bit more for tutorials. Video. Okay, so video online course. Yep, online course. Good. And slideshow. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for taking part. So what we've got at the moment, so just to give you the state of play, and slideshow, online course, webinars, and tutorials, they're the top 4. I didn't count exactly which order we're going to there, but I'll just do them in the order that I said here. So the way it's going to work is I've got a slide for each one of them, and what I'm going to do is we'll jump to that slide, and I'll give you a very brief overview, and then you can ask any questions you like, and I'm happy to answer them. So we'll kind of aim for, we've got about 15 minutes left, so let's aim for about 3 minutes per topic, 2 to 3 minutes per topic, and if we finish those 4, then we'll do whatever's left. So I'm very happy to come back and do some more of the others as well. So let's jump to slideshow first. And that's basically very simple. So you've got a book with, say, 9 chapters. So my book, The Future of Leadership, has 9 chapters. I have created a slideshow so the book's called The Future of Leadership, 9 Things Successful Leaders Do Now. So I have a slideshow with 9 slides, and the title of the slideshow is called 9 Things Successful Leaders Do Now. It's basically got 9 slides. Each one of them's got a nice picture and one simple message. And the message is like this, like the title of this. It's just like one short sentence of one of the things that successful leaders do now. It's a very simple slideshow that people can just watch, and then at the end, slide 10 has a link to the book and to my website. Actually, I don't even think it has a link to the book, because I'm not trying to sell the book. What I'm trying to do is get people to buy the or book me as a speaker as a result of watching the slideshow. So please ask me some questions about that. Anything you like, whether it's a really technical question like how do you actually create the slideshow, where do you find the pictures, what platform do you use, anything you like, and I'm happy to answer them for you. The idea is you've already got the material. Okay, so you've got the material in your book. So actually all you're doing is taking the main points and creating a slideshow from them. Do you use SlideShare? Yes, I do. So I use two things. I use SlideShare is one, which I think lots of people know about. One that many people may not know about is another one called Haiku Deck. So Haiku, Haiku Deck, and Haiku Deck is fantastic because it's not as powerful as say PowerPoint or Keynote, but it lets you create slideshows very fast. It has a great collection of pictures. So if I want a picture of like here, art gallery, I just type in art gallery and it finds pictures in this collection, and I can just slot one of those into a slide. Shireen says, do you recommend iMovie for creating slide videos? Yeah, absolutely. So iMovie is great. Windows Movie Maker is great. So iMovie, you can have all those transitions as well in there. So yes, definitely. So you can create a slideshow which is actually a video. So iMovie will do that. So when people press play, it just goes to the slides without them touching it. With something like SlideShare or Haiku Deck, they actually page through the slides one at a time. So depending on which you want, both options are quite good. Notice that I have the image source. Is this important? Kerry says, yes, it is. So this is me talking about, I think Kerry's noticing that I've actually credited the user here. So that's because this picture comes from Flickr, and Flickr has made available under Creative Commons license, which is what this CC here means. And the terms of me using it are that I have to credit the source. Now, depending where you get the image, you may or may not have to do that. Okay, another question. How long do you recommend it be? Shireen's asking. Okay, so again, the nice thing about this is that I don't know the answer, but you do, because you've got a book and it's got a certain number of chapters. So just follow the same number of chapters as your book. That's one formula. It's an easy formula. You don't have to think too much about it. So that's all you do. One slide per chapter. You may do 2 slides per chapter. So you may have a slide with the main message, and then another slide with an explanatory note if you wanted to. So it could be either as long as as many chapters as you've got, or twice as many. All right, that'll do for slideshows. Let's move on to the next one. So this is kind of how we're going to do this, right? We'll do a rapid fire Q&A on each of these 9 ideas, or as many of them as we get to. I think there's one more. Do I have a virtual assistant service to create it? So with some of them I do, some of them I don't. Like Haiku Deck allows you to create it very, very fast without using a virtual assistant. But at other times, I've just said, look, here are the main points. Can you create a slideshow around it? Again, that's a nice thing about the book, because you can just send them a copy of the book and they can create it from that. So I'm working with a designer at the moment, and he's done exactly that. It wasn't quite a slideshow. I got him to create a little ebook, but all I did was send him the book and said, here are the 9 chapters, extract here are a couple of paragraphs to extract, find some pictures and create an ebook out of it. So that's the ebook version of this, but it's exactly the same as a slideshow. So the same principle as a slideshow. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So what I say was next was online courses. So lots of people did ask about online courses. So let's jump to that one next. Online course. Okay, so the principle behind this is pretty similar, but instead of creating a slide for each chapter, what you do is you have a 1-page summary for each chapter, and you set it up in some form of automatic email delivery system. So this is not the only way to do online courses, but this is a simple way to do it. So I use MailChimp, and I would just take each chapter, send out, say, a MailChimp a lesson every day in the online course, so it may be every week, depending on how much material they have to cover. And basically, it's just a summary of the chapter. You might have 3 action points at the bottom, and then people who subscribe to the online course then get then get that sent to them every day or every 3 days or every week. So it's a very simple thing to do. Again, you've got all the content. If you've done the slideshow already, you might even want to insert the picture from the slide, and that goes through into the online course. Now, some people do this paid, some people do it free. If you're talking about marketing, which is specifically what today's webinar is about, then it becomes a free online course, but there's no reason why it can't be a paid online course either. So let's see any questions that you've got around that. Please type them in. I'll be happy to answer them. Can you use Aweber? Yes, you can. So there's a number of tools now that let you just send out what you want. It's just an automated series of emails. So MailChimp does it, Aweber does it, Infusionsoft does it, I think Constant Contact does it. Many of those tools do that for you. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Yes, I do. As a course, are there review questions or an exam quiz at the end? Felicity asks. So I reckon in this course, no, you don't need it, because remember we're talking about marketing here. So all we're trying to do is give people, and the purpose of doing this online course is to get their email address, basically, and stay in touch with them. Because remember, you're not trying to really make it educational. You want it to be, but it's not meant to be formal. From marketing purposes, I wouldn't bother about the quiz or the review or the exam. Now, certainly, if you're doing a paid online course, then you kind of raise the bar and you have to provide some of those things. But for a free online course that you're using for marketing purposes to build your authority, I wouldn't worry about that. Just have a simple one page. Here's a summary of this chapter. And you don't even have to say this is the chapter. You don't even have to promote the book. You just say, here's one of the 9 things successful people do differently. Quick summary, and here are 3 action points that you can take away. That's what you do. Do you recommend self-hosting your online course or use Udemy or Teachable platforms? Okay, so I recommend the online course I'm talking about here is not using things like Udemy or Teachable. It's an email course, so it's using things like MailChimp or Aweber or Infusionsoft. You can absolutely use other tools like Udemy, Teachable. There's a whole bunch of other platforms. You can even host yourself on a WordPress site, which is I think what Shireen's asking about. But the specific example or the specific format I'm talking about here is an email course, because it gives you multiple touch points, and all you're trying to do is send it to people to build your authority. Can MailChimp host your video, or do you link that through YouTube? Yeah, that's right. So if your online course modules have video in them, which is fine, you can absolutely do that, then yes, I would upload it to YouTube and just put a link in the email to say, click here and watch the video. Okay, I'm going to jump back. I'm going to jump around to the next one. I think we will only have time to do the 4 that came up as the top priorities, but that's okay. Okay, what is the next one? Webinars. Okay. Okay, again, this is similar. So the idea is you've got your chapters. You can take any one of them and run a webinar on it. And if you've been a regular subscriber to my webinar series, you may or may not have noticed that that's exactly what I do. So I will look at a chapter of my book, and I've got all the content there. So I'm running a webinar on innovation. I've got all the content from the innovation chapter of my book. So it's very easy for me to run a webinar on that. Again, remember, I'm not trying to sell the book. All I'm trying to do is offer a free webinar to build my authority so that I get more business as a result of it. But having written the book, you've already got all the content, you've got all the diagrams, you've got all the points that you want to make. All you've got to do is come up with a really nice slide deck and then promote it as a free webinar. Again, remember, we're talking about free stuff here because we're talking about marketing. Any questions about that? Yeah, just give you time to ask. I mean, I've run multiple webinars about webinars, so there's a lot that you could ask about webinars, but I'm very happy to answer just a couple in the time that we've got. Do you run a webinar about the book or about a chapter? Yeah, okay, so I think the question is, like, do you run a webinar about, like, so my book, The Future of Leadership, has got 9 chapters. So do I run a webinar called The Future of Leadership, the 9 things successful leaders do now? Or do I pick one of the chapters and run a webinar about that, like the productivity chapter, and I run a webinar called Channeling Chaos? I tend to do the latter. So Marie, you can ask me if I'm answering the right question, but I tend to do the latter. So I would do a more detailed webinar rather than an overview webinar, because I want each of my webinars to give people value. So webinars are like training. So I want to make them, rather than like an overview, I'd rather give you individual value, like I'm doing now. Like I've got 9 topics we could talk about, but we're only going to get through 4, because if we were going to do all 9, I could only give you a tiny overview. So I would tend to pick a chapter and run a webinar on that. What's your number one way to market your online course? Okay, so marketing online course is just, remember, this is a free online course. So just promote it, and promote it through your networks. And because it's free, ask other people to share it and promote it as well. And they'd be happy to do that. There's no ickiness around that if you ask your existing network. I mean, don't spam people and say, can you please promote this? But if you've, like, I will always, if I've got a free webinar, I'll post on Facebook and say free webinar coming up, and it encourages people to share it with their networks as well. Sorry, this is, I know Shireen, you asked about online course, but the same applies to webinars. Any other questions about webinars? Okay, if you want to know some of the technical things about webinars, if you're an eGurus member, there's heaps of material in the eGurus vault about it. And if you're not an eGurus member, go to my website, and in the blog, just search for webinar, and there's heaps of material there as well. Or join the eGurus eGurus community. I'd love that as well. Okay, we have time for one more. The last one was tutorials. Yeah, so this is under video. So tutorials here. It's simple, and we've talked about, I think I mentioned this in passing. Just create a short video tutorial for key concepts in your book. So rather than creating a video about the whole book, and it's not even about a whole chapter. You might take one idea that you've got in a chapter and create a video tutorial about it, which is just simply you talking to camera. Or you can, there's some other tools that you can use to create video where they don't even see you. So you may have seen those animated cartoon kind of videos. You can create those. You can create videos with just slides on them. There's various ways you can create video, but the principle here is pick a concept from the book. You already know it really well because you've written it in the book. You don't just read it out, so don't try to make it don't make it sound scripted, but you know the material, and just create a video around it, publish it to YouTube, and then promote it through your networks. How long is short? Felicity asks, so this is how long the video can be. Look, as a rule of thumb, I would aim for about 3 minutes. There are exceptions to that rule, but I reckon if you look at a concept in your book, a single concept, you can probably explain in 3 minutes. If it's longer than that, then you're either talking too long, or you're trying to explain too important a concept. Break it up into smaller concepts. Do you also post to your blog? Marie says, yes, you do. So I use my blog as the hub of everything else that I publish. So everything we talked about, slideshows, online courses, webinar recordings that I make public, and all my videos, they first get published somewhere else. So they go to SlideShare or to YouTube or to run the webinar and go to webinar. And then publish the recording to YouTube, but I'll also publish it to my blog, because I want my blog to be the one place that people can come to if they want to see absolutely everything that I do that I've recorded, even if it's posted somewhere else. So articles that I publish on LinkedIn, I make sure they're also on my blog as well. So the blog is a hub for everything else. And that helps with the authority, because remember, this is all about authority. Your blog is a place that really demonstrates your authority. Okay, I don't see any other questions about that, so let me go back. Okay, so look, we've got 9 of them, and I reckon we got through 4, so that's pretty good. As I was putting this together, I thought if we get through about half of them, that's about right. And so we have got through about half of them, which is fantastic. So remember again, just to summarize, remember the whole purpose of this is to build up your authority. All of the things we've talked about, you can use as paid products or make available in your membership site, and that's completely okay. today I've talked about it in the context of looking through the lens of trying to become a trusted authority. And that's what I want you to do. So again, think about what you wrote down or when we did the poll. And if you're down here, how do you get to up to here? This is where I want you to be. And one of the fastest ways to do that is by publishing a book. If you've already got other methods, if you've already got a book, great, then use the leverage tools that we've talked about. If you haven't already got a book, then just think about publishing a book. And printed books still have a lot of value. They, despite the fact that we've all gone really online now, printed books have a lot of value. So let me just see if there's any last questions. Shelley says you could also use some of these ideas to promote commercially published books. Publishers only have a limited budget for promotion. Exactly right, Shelley, and they do very little promotion for you. So the one challenge with using that is just be careful. Like if you're using a commercially published book with a publisher, just be careful about the ability to take your material from the book and reuse it. So like for one of the things we didn't talk about was, what was on the list was articles and blog posts. If you're going to copy them and use them verbatim, then you just got to be careful about the agreement that you have with your publisher. But apart from that, absolutely right. Whether you write your book yourself, whether you publish it yourself or go with a well-known commercial publisher, you still have to do most of the promotion for it. Yeah, and Shelley says, yes, I would work in conjunction with them. Okay, great. So as I said at the start, I do have a one-day book writing masterclass. It's called Fast Track Your Book, and I'm running it twice. I'm running it once in Sydney coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and then again in Melbourne in September. And the purpose of this is if you've got ideas in your head and you know you want to write a book, you know the value that a book's got for you, but you just don't know the process. You don't know how to structure it. You don't know how to put it together. You don't know how to find the time to write. You don't know ISBNs, and you don't know how to get testimonials for the book before it's published. You don't know how to get a book cover designed and what goes on a book cover. All of that sort of stuff I'm going to help you work through so that you walk out with a full plan and knowledge of how to put the book together. It's a one-day program, so if you're interested, go to fasttrackyourbook.com and register for that program. So registrations are open now, and it's specifically for people who know that they want to write a book and they recognize the value from it. So thanks, everyone. I hope you got some really good value for leveraging the whatever authority building tool you're using. So we talked about a book, but I hope you recognize the importance of becoming a trusted authority, because it really does position you differently from everybody else. Even if you've already got a relationship with your customers and clients, just recognize that that relationship doesn't necessarily last forever. I hope you get some value, and I look forward to seeing you on the next time we run these webinars. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.